The crystalline palace of Zethara Prime gleamed under three violet suns, its towers reaching toward the cosmos like fingers grasping at hope. Inside the throne room, Emperor Vexthor paced with mounting desperation, his iridescent scales shifting through anxious patterns of crimson and gold. Another failure, he hissed, watching through the holographic display as the champion from Rigel 7 retreated from the vault of eternal silence, his energy shields flickering and dying. That makes 63 warriors. 63 of the galaxy's finest, and my daughter remains trapped. Princess Lyra had been sealed in the ancient vault for 27 cycles now, imprisoned by a mechanism so old that its creators had been dust for millennia. The vault's door, a masterpiece of forgotten technology, had suddenly locked during her historical research expedition, trapping her behind layers of quantum-sealed adamantium that resisted every attempt at rescue. The galaxy's elite had answered the Emperor's call. Plasma cutters melted before touching the door. Molecular disruptors phased harmlessly through it as if it didn't exist. A telekinetic master from Psion had meditated for 6 days straight, attempting to move the locking mechanism with his mind, only to collapse from exhaustion. Even the legendary Krevan mercenaries, who claimed to have breached every fortress in known space, had departed with their pride wounded and their weapons useless. Your Majesty, the court advisor spoke carefully, there is one more option, though unconventional. Speak. A human has arrived. From Earth. They claim they can help. Emperor Vexthor's eye stalks retracted in disgust. A human? Those primitive creatures who only achieved faster than light travel 3 cycles ago. They still use combustion engines on their homeworld. Yes, Your Majesty, but they are persistent, and they've brought their own tools. What did the Emperor have to lose? He waved a clawed appendage in resignation. Annabelle wiped the grease from her hands onto her already stained coveralls as she surveyed the legendary vault of eternal silence. Behind her, Juan, her assistant and partner in their traveling repair service, wheeled in their toolkit, a battered metal chest that had seen more star systems than most luxury cruise ships. Doesn't look that eternal to me, Annabelle muttered, running her fingers along the door's edge. Juan, hand me the flashlight. The assembled court whispered among themselves. The human female was unimpressive, short by galactic standards, with no visible weapons, no armor, no energy fields. Just a worn jumpsuit with Anna's repairs stitched across the back and a tool belt that looked positively ancient. You cannot be serious, General Thaxmore growled, his 4 arms crossed in skepticism. We have brought quantum engineers, reality manipulators, and temporal artificers. What can a simple mechanic possibly accomplish? Annabelle didn't look up from her examination. You ever try turning it off and on again? The silence that followed was deafening. The vault has no power source, the Emperor said slowly. It is self-contained, permanent. Everything's got a power source, pal, even if it's just stored potential energy. She pressed her ear against the door, wrapping her knuckles along various points. Juan, this thing's got moving parts. Lots of them. Mechanical, not energy-based. Juan nodded, already rummaging through the toolkit. The scans were all calibrated for modern tech. Nobody thought to look for simple machines. Simple. General Thaxmore sputtered. This vault predates the formation of the Galactic Council, and my grandmother's tractor is 70 years old, but I can still fix it. Annabelle finally turned to face the Emperor. Your Majesty, with respect, I think your people have been overthinking this. Every fancy warrior you brought tried fancy solutions. Sometimes the old problems need old solutions. She accepted a strange metal canister from Juan, its label worn but readable, WD-40, the multi-purpose lubricant. What is that? The court advisor asked, leaning forward. This, Annabelle said with a grin, is what we call a miracle in a can. It's been fixing things on Earth for almost 200 years. If it doesn't move, and it should, you use WD-40. If it moves, and it shouldn't, you use duct tape. Today, we need things to move. She approached the door, studying the hairline seams where the massive panels met. The mechanism, as she suspected, wasn't sealed by energy fields or quantum locks. It was stuck, literally stuck, its ancient gears and pins frozen by millennia of accumulated mineral deposits and friction. The thing about really old tech, she explained, working the can's thin red straw into the seam. is that it's actually built to last. No planned obsolescence, no delicate components. Just pure, stubborn engineering. Which means it can be fixed with pure, stubborn solutions. She sprayed. The petroleum-based solvent hissed as it penetrated the microscopic gaps, flowing along ancient channels, seeking the frozen mechanisms within. The court watched in stunned silence as the human repeated this process at a dozen points along the door's perimeter. Now we wait, Annabelle announced, checking her chronometer. Juan, break out the pry bars. The little ones. Pry bars. General Faxmore looked ready to have an aneurysm. You intend to pry open the vault of eternal silence with leverage. Leverage, General, is the oldest technology in the universe. Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum to place it on, and I'll move the world. Some old human guy said that. Or was it an ancient Greek? Point is, it's true. 15 minutes later, after the WD-40 had worked its chemical magic, loosening deposits and freeing corroded pins, Annabelle positioned 3 pry bars in strategic locations. All right, Your Majesty, you might want to step back. Juan on 3. 1, 2, 3. They heaved. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a groan that sounded like the death rattle of civilizations, the door shuddered. Ancient gears, freed from their prison of mineral and time, began to turn. Slowly at first, then faster. The mechanism engaged, just as its long-dead creators had intended. The vault of eternal silence opened. Princess Lyra emerged, blinking in the light, her chitinous features streaked with tears of relief. Father, the Emperor rushed forward, embracing his daughter, his scales flashing with joy. When he finally composed himself, he turned to Annabelle with something like wonder in his multifaceted eyes. You used oil, penetrating catalyst, technically, but yeah, sometimes the best solution is the simplest one. You just gotta know when to use it. Annabelle packed up her tools while Juan coiled their extension cords. That'll be 5,000 credits, by the way. Galactic standard rate for emergency house calls. As word spread through the cosmos of how a human mechanic with a can of WD-40 had succeeded where the galaxy's champions had failed, Earth's reputation began to shift. They weren't just the scrappy newcomers anymore. They were the species that remembered the old ways, the practical ways, the ways that actually worked. And in repair shops across human space, a new saying emerged. We might not be the strongest, or the smartest, or the most advanced, but we're the ones who know how to fix things. Annabelle and Juan's ship lifted off from Zethra Prime with full tanks and fuller pockets, already receiving distress calls from 3 other systems. The galaxy, it seemed, had a lot of things that needed fixing, and humanity, as always, had just the right tools for the job.